They're just raping. They're just raping women.
So let me tell you the inside scoop. We got a bunch of these women protesting the ACLU because they've had it with them prioritizing trans rights over women's rights. Let's go see what's going on.
And there's no such thing as trans.
Why don't you think so?
Because they're just people pretending to be something they're not.
People have these gender identities. It's a mystical, magical thing.
What is this gender identity? What is that? Somebody explain that to me. Show it to me on the body. It's not a real thing. It's an idea, right?
There's no way to measure it or to observe it. You just got to take someone's word for it. And you say, you can affirm it by saying a prayer, which is saying their pronouns. It's really a religious belief.
I am not an idea in a man's head. My reality is real. My body is real. The things that I live with, the things that I go through are unique to me and all the women here. A man will never experience that because a man feels like a girl. That he is a girl is ludicrous. So I don't use the word. I say men pretending to be or women pretending to be because that's all it is. You're pretending to be something that you're not.
We've gathered here today to protest the ACLU, who we have identified as the legal strong arm of the gender industry and agenda.
If there's a single legal entity that's more responsible than any other for men being in women's prisons, it is the ACLU.
One of the biggest issues is they're putting trans women in women's prisons, locker rooms, and restrooms. These are natural men. These women are furious.
See, any man that wants to come in your sister's, your mother's bathroom, it is mostly legal in every state for men to be in women's bathrooms.
And this is not a world that I want my children to inherit.
They have been representing men's rights to access women and girls' private spaces such as locker rooms, bathrooms, prisons, rape shelters.
They're just raping. They're just raping women in front of the other women.
Do you think the guys is just doing that, or do you think the women are allowing them to do that?
You cannot consent when you're in prison to sex. So it is rape.
Why can't you consent?
The government technically is like your parent once you get in that system, arrested.
Women and girls are ultimately being told that they no longer have the right of consent. They no longer have the right to boundaries around their bodies. This is a tragedy and a safeguarding failure, especially for our daughters.
And the men are there to have sex. I mean, that's what they're there for. It's called $1 Million Baby. They walk around saying we're going to make $1 million baby, and they try to have sex with as many women as they can.
If you had to give me an option to either get undressed on the street with a bunch of random strange men who aren't trying to force themselves into the women's restroom, or go into the women's restroom full with men who demand to be in there because they say that they're women, I'll take my chances out on the street. You know why? Because the average man is probably safer than whatever freak show is trying to insist that he has the right to come in and watch me undress.
If you go there and they say, we're going to strip search you, and you say no, you're not allowed to say no. That's part of the procedure. So now you go there, we're going to rape you, and the women prisoners say no. They're not allowed to say no. Whether or not they want to have sex with that man or not. They're not allowed to say no because the state has put a man in there. And if they do say no, they get put in solitary confinement.
We are being told that our ability to consent, no one asked us if these men could enter our spaces. And if they did ask us, we would say no. So in that sense, our right to offer our approval or consent or even our feedback has been removed. So these men are simply entitled to access our spaces whether or not we agree to it. And we do not consent to it.
Why do you think there's such a big push to put men in women's facilities?
Besides, they don't have any respect for women. I think it's money.
Every child that they transition pediatrically is worth about $1 million to the pharmaceutical companies. They will be a medical patient for the rest of their lives.
They're creating a medical market for the children, and they're creating all kinds of shootouts with markets with this. This is not a civil rights movement. It is a business movement to commodify humans because what happened? We don't have a manufacturing. We're selling our people now. We're selling parts. We're selling surrogacy. We're selling, women's rights, basically. We're putting men with the women in the prison.
Well, instead of shutting down the women's prisons, well, we have so many overflow of men. We can just rebrand a few of them as women and put them over in the women's prison, you know, and then everybody can be making money. It's insane. It's scary.
They are literally creating babies that are now entering the foster care system.
Why do they want our children? You know, why do they want to create them in prisons? Why do they want to take them from parents? Why do they want to remove parental consent? I mean, your guess is as good as mine, right? Like, is it for pedophilia? I mean, that's where it goes, because that's where my mind goes, because there's really no other reason to take children away from their parents under the guise of gender identity. Parents are the ones that love their children the most.
That's like the solution. What do you think that is?
We go back to reality. There's men and there's women. Everybody else is just pretending to be something they're not. In law, there's no such thing as gender. It's sex, period. That's where we have to go. Back to reality. Men are men, women are women, period, end of.
We're going to have people tell you, just be kind, just be nice. It is not kind to house men with vulnerable women who are being impregnated. It is not kind that those babies are being ripped out of their mother's arms within 48 hours postpartum and dumped into a foster care system where they will be medicalized and most likely, surprise, surprise, in a few years' time, pop up as trans, and now being a little, goose egg of money for the medical system that's going to make, again, upwards of $1 million off of these kids.